in here. In this video, I'm going to go over the arrow builds, or like the arrows that I use, I hunt with, I shoot with, basically how I put them together, what I used. I'm not going to go over and actually demonstrate how to actually build your own arrow today. But there's plenty of videos on YouTube for you guys to actually peruse and do your own research and figure that out. That's what I had to do. Just in terms of like a component standpoint and just like a thought about like the thought process behind why I built the arrows the way I did. That's what this video is actually more about today. So without further ado, I'll jump right in. So the arrows that I hunt with are the Easton FMJ or Full Metal arrows. And a little bit of specs about the technology that's actually in this arrow. If you don't know anything about the FMJ or Full Metal Jacket, the core of this arrow is carbon, and there's a very thin kind of like an outer shell cover of aluminum. So it's aluminum carbon hybrid. I shoot the 5mm diameter version, so a little smaller. There's the 6mm diameter version. I just happen to like the 5mm because honestly, when I looked at them, they look freaking cool. So a little more specs about this. I shoot the 340 spine. So my bow IBO speed about 335 on the top end, 333 on the lower end. Max poundage that I shoot is 70 pounds, 27.5-inch draw. So it's not a super fast particular setup or bow compared to what's out there nowadays. But the 340 spine has worked really well for me. At the 340 spine, the shaft of the arrow is 11.3 grains per inch. And I order my shafts, and it's the match grade. So it's like the top of the line, whatever. Best top shafts you can get are bound together in terms of straightness, tolerance, and all that jazz. I order my shafts from actually all these supplies that you see here from Lancaster Archery. I'll put a link in the description or in the video right here. So when you order your shafts from Lancaster Archery, they want you to tell the length that you want to have them cut, because they will pre-cut them for you for a little, like maybe a quarter at the tops extra per shaft. And they want to measure from the base of the nock to the end of the shaft, what length you would like those to cut at. So I have them cut at 27.75 inches. So that kind of counts for the nock, which is about a quarter inch long, when it's actually inserted inside the end of the shaft. So that way the whole arrow comes into a total of 28 inches long, from base of the shaft to the end of the throat of the nock. This arrow is a heavy arrow, which is one of the things that I kind of like about it, is just in terms of durability and penetration power. There's kind of two schools of thought within my research that I've found, and it kind of goes from, you can either shoot a really heavy arrow that moves slower, or you can shoot to like an all carbon shaft, which will travel faster, but may not necessarily have that particular penetration power. I just happen to find that the FMJs hit like a hammer. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Hit like a fucking hammer. Especially with the way that I have built them. So one of the other things that I did, I have actually wrapped and fletched the arrows myself. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But on the other end of this, one of the things I put in on the front end is a brass insert. The brass hit insert that Easton makes. You can also find them on Lancaster. When they come to you and you pull them out of a box, there's like a little, if you ever see it, it looks like a regular insert and then like a little dip. Then there's like an extra added piece on the back end. That whole insert, when you pull it out of the package, is 75 grains. You break off that back end, and you take off 25 grains, and it's now a 50 grain insert. So I actually have 50 grain brass insert here in the front of the arrow. So that puts a little bit more. My FOC is about 10.3% with that, and I shoot 100 grain tips. So basically, at the end of the day, this arrow is about 498 grains. It's almost 500. That's a heavy arrow, and it hits like a sledgehammer. So this actual arrow right here, this exact one I'm holding in my hand, is the one that I used to shoot my buck this past fall, my first deer. And at 17 yards, the arrow went through his right shoulder blade and passed through just past the left shoulder blade, just behind that, and went clear through, passed through, um, punched through bone, punched through the backside, and stuck in the ground. About that much. So it was a sledgehammer, and that buck ran 40 yards and dropped. Um, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to use a heavier arrow, so that way I know I have a pass through. It's not going to damage the arrow if it gets stuck. It's going to run through a tree, like a tree or something like that, and it's going to break off, and I'm out an arrow. It's something that's just going to go right through the deer. I can get a clean kind of sense of what the shot was like from the veins in the wrap, which I'll talk about here in a bit, and just I'll be able to recover that arrow from the point of impact. That's why I picked this arrow. Durability, penetration, heavy. Now, the wraps and the veins. If you notice, it's all white. So white wrap, white veins. This is like a inch width, 7-inch long wrap. You can also buy these from Lancaster Archery for my boning archery. They come about baker's dozen, so 13 wraps per package, depending on how many arrows you make. Or you're going to need a lot of these. One of the cool reasons why I went and tried to actually do a wrap, which is part of one of the other interesting things and reason why I like actually ordering my own shafts, especially the match grade shafts from Lancaster Archery, is they don't come pre-fletched. So it's a bare shaft. I have a blank canvas to work with. So that way I have to do the wrap, then vein. Reason being, when you shoot really tight groups, or just tight period, and as you're shooting and you shoot a lot, sometimes you might damage the fletching on your arrow. Either have an arrow actually go right through, or it'll cut, do something like that, damage them. Makes it really easy to refletch the arrow when you have them attached to the wrap instead of the actual bare shaft. All I have to do is just remove the wrap. The whole veins come with it. Re-wrap the arrow, re-vein the arrow, done. Ready to shoot. So that's one of the reasons why I went with doing the wrap and then veining them myself, just so that way I have that control. Plus it's just cool just to be able to build your own arrows and actually do any different color combinations, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I also picked the white boning laser blades, so the white on white, is there's the blood sport arrows that have like a white ring down like the shaft, and what that's designed to do is when you make a shot on a deer, it kind of collects a little bit of, basically it's supposed to be a shot indicator of what you hit. I figured logic was good. I like that. That's kind of cool, being able to tell, we can clearly see what kind of blood you have, if it's a little dark, if there's some green, or it's that bright bubbly blood. I want to be able to see what kind of damage I did or what kind of shot I made and what I hit, so that way I can know what I should do from the next steps after from that point on. So white on white, clear white, take that little strip, but make it all the way back here, and an arrow that passes right through the deer. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So actually when I shot this arrow, it did do the pass through, and I was able to clearly see the bright bubbly blood all the way up the shaft of the veins, on the veins, on the wrap, and I was clearly able to tell, plus being able to hear them go down, that I knew I actually had made a really critical shot, lethal shot, right through double lung and maybe some heart, but definitely hit the double lung and knew that deer was going to be dead. So that's why I went with the white on white. Now, when you're actually going through and you're going to build your arrows, there's some other extra things that you're going to need, and because I wrap and vein the arrows myself, I had to get a couple extra tools and some supplies to help with this process. So I'm going to turn to this side of the table right here. When I get my bare shafts, one of the first things I like to do is use these Arizona Archery Enterprises, or AAE, Max Clean wipes. There's a little bit of alcohol that are on these wipes, and basically what I use, I'll take one of these wipes and I'll rub the entire shaft down up to the nock, and just basically what it does is just remove any oils, residue, dust, anything like that from the shaft, which makes the adhesive when you go to wrap it very, very tight fitting to the arrow, so that way it's nice and smooth all the way around. There's no bubbles or anything like that. It just helps with the adhesive process. Now, once I have wrapped the arrow, after using this, I would actually kind of use like a different side of the wipe and actually wipe down the wrap to get rid of all the oils and everything else, so that way when I attach the veins, it's a nice solid seal on here, so there's really no extra gluing or anything, or the veins aren't going to fly off or anything like that. It just helps with the overall durability of your veins. Now, for the vein glue, I use the AE, Arizona Archery Enterprises, the Max Bond vein glue, which is really good. You don't need a whole lot out of this in order to actually have the veins stick. Combine that with the actual thing when I get here. The actual fletching tool I use, you don't need a whole lot of this in order to actually get the veins to stick. Now, before I glue any of the veins on, I also use this pen, which is like a little primer. So when I put the actual veins in the jig, I will use the pen to stroke the base of each vein. And what that does is primes for the glue, for the adhesive once I actually put it on there. So that way it also basically just makes it so increases the durability and the level of stick that the fletching's going to have to the arrow. So let me get down to the jig. So the fletching jig that I use is the Arizona Mini Fletch, which applies a fixed helical. Don't remember off the top of my head of the actual degrees, but it's a very tight, a very noticeable helical on the veins. And what that does is increases speed, which reduces the amount of effect that wind has, but that it makes the arrow spin faster, therefore cuts through wind better. The one kind of downside to that is it takes away a little bit of the velocity of the arrow because it's spinning faster, so increases the friction of the arrow as it goes through the air. Hasn't been noticeably bad. So then, once I actually apply the veins to the arrow, pretty much just let it kind of dry, just do the touch-ups that I need, and then that's it. Just attach the 100 grade point, and we're good to go. Just to rewind just a little bit, for the inserts, I use the Max Impact Superior Insert Adhesive, also made by AAE. This stuff dries really fast. So the normal kind of standard epoxy, the two-part epoxy that comes with like arrows that you buy from like Field & Stream or Dick's or anything like that, or the inserts that come with the actual arrows when you buy them, that little aluminum insert, the two-part epoxy takes about 24 hours to dry, and you have to make sure the arrow is completely flat. This stuff will bond, dry, do all that, cure, whatever it does, in about minute and a half, 2 minutes tops. You basically put it in, done, blah. With that being said, that is a bitch. You can't really write any errors that you make when you actually go to insert an arrow, which that's my least favorite part. Because I got to make sure you're using the right end of the tool and everything. So I've gotten in the habit of doing practice runs first, where I actually push the insert in using the tool, making sure I can push it down, twist, pull out, do all that, and just practice, do some dry runs of that. And basically only way to get the insert out is I screw a little field point in, take some pliers, pull the insert out, and then I'm good to do an actual run through with using the adhesive. Now, no arrow is complete. When I talk about like hunting, my hunting set up in terms of points, shoot 100 grain points. So that way, in the front end of the arrow, it's 150 grains. I shoot the G5 Montec fixed broadhead, and one of the reasons why I like this particular broadhead is that it's a solid steel one-piece construction. There's no replaceable blades or anything like that. It's fixed blades, so it's going to cut on contact. I tried to do some of the Rage expandable blades, but some of like the newer ones, they had like a 3-blade chisel tip kind of thing, but it had that plastic collar, and I just could never get, and I even tested this, could never get all 3 blades to deploy, which was frustrating, and I did not like that. Didn't feel comfortable with that, shooting at a layered target, a foam target or anything like that, and I just could never get it to consistently deploy. One particular expandable broadhead series, the Slip Cam from Rage, which has a rubber band that holds the blades in, That one I've found I have really consistent deployability from when I was younger. When I first kind of started, I used the Rage because all the hit things about the Rage is it cut, made a really big hole, lots of good blood. Loss. My dad actually shot a buck, and the buck actually moved forward after he shot, and this is about like 27, 25 yards. Lead forward. My dad actually hit it high up on the back and actually severed one of the veins, and still killed that deer using a Rage. So he kind of righted his wrongs and was able to have that cutting diameter to be able to save him. The cutting diameter of these is not nearly as big, but it cuts on contact. And I've also noticed that this particular broadhead, I haven't seen any changes in terms of flight patterns, whether it flies differently than like a field point would, or changes in accuracy going from field point to broadhead. Have not seen any noticeable differences. That another pro. One of the things I will say about the G5 Montec is when he comes out of the box, the blades are kind of dull. But one of the cool things about having this particular broadhead is you can take it to a sharpening stone and just kind of run it through passes on that, and you can actually sharpen and resharpen these blades basically for the life of the broadhead, which is pretty cool. So that way, after you shoot a deer, you can reuse the broadhead and the arrow at the same time. So basically, what I'm leading to this point, this is the what you see right here is the exact arrow, broadhead and arrow, that I used to shoot my first whitetail deer, and I have recovered all of it. And I cleaned it off, wiped it off. There's this little streak, and that's how I know that this is the arrow that I used to shoot. And this is the broadhead, and all I had to do was just take it to a sharpening stone, clean off the mud and everything else, take it back to the sharpening stone, and get it nice and sharp again, and ready to cut, and be able to use it again. So that is pretty much what I've used to build my own arrows, in terms of just like supplies, what I've actually done to actually build my arrow, what goes in it, and why it is the way it is, and just my own little thoughts. Also, before I close this out, just a little plug here. If you would like to buy any of the 585 Outdoors merchandise, like t-shirts, hoodies, that kind of thing, don't have hats, but shirts, hoodies, like the royal blue shirts that you see myself, Corey, and any of the guys in any of the videos that you see they're wearing. If you'd like to buy one, there's going to be a link in the description of this video to our Teespring store. So if you want to look up, go on Teespring, type in 585 Outdoors -2, and that'll take you right to the store and call it the Classic. It has the original logo of 585 Outdoors, and we would greatly appreciate if you would pick up a shirt, just one shirt or two, and show some pride to the Western New York and the 585 and all the lovely outdoor adventures that we are trying to bring to you and telling this story. So with that, I'm Ian. Thank you for watching.